The Imperial Star Cruiser Vathra was a cathedral of steel and arrogance, a ship built not only for war but for spectacle. Its black hull stretched nearly 10 kilometers, lined with the jagged spines of plasma turrets that could reduce a continent to slag. In its shadow drifted 30 warcruisers and 6 dreadnoughts, an armada vast enough to intimidate entire sectors into obedience without firing a shot. But today, intimidation was not the goal. Today was conquest. Admiral Zoreth stood upon the command dais, his crimson cape flowing with each measured step. His body, armored in the ceremonial plates of his station, seemed carved from obsidian. Eyes that had seen centuries of war now burned with disdain as they fixed on the holographic display hovering before him. A lone dot glimmered at the edge of Imperial territory. A single Terran vessel. "This is their answer," he scoffed, voice reverberating across the command deck. "The humans insult us with a token ship?" Around him, his officers chittered nervously, mandibles and frills betraying unease. Zoreth misread it as anticipation. "They still believe isolation protects them," he continued. "They will learn that the galaxy bends to one throne. Our throne." The order rippled outward like a commandment, "Form the kill circle." The fleet responded in perfect unity, warcruisers shifting position with cold precision, dreadnoughts aligning their cannons, the planet cracker priming for display. Against this mountain of force, the Terran ship seemed almost laughable. It floated in silence, a shard of midnight against the stars. No running lights. No visible weapon mounts. Its hull gave no readings. "Sensor report," Zoreth demanded. The officer at the station hesitated, claws trembling across the console. "Admiral, the vessel emits no signature. No reactor heat. No shielding frequency. No life signs. It is," the words faltered. "It is as if the ship is not there." A ripple of unease swept the crew. Zoreth's mandibles twitched with irritation. "Nonsense. A parlor trick. Primitive stealth plating. We will expose them when their hull vaporizes." Far across the void, aboard the USS Nemesis, the atmosphere could not have been more different. The bridge was calm, deliberate, its crew seated in silence. The only sound was the hum of systems so advanced they seemed alive. Captain Jonathan Reeves stood at the center, hands clasped behind his back. He was tall, lean, his uniform immaculate, his expression carved from steel. His eyes never wavered from the forward display where the Imperial fleet assembled like predators around prey. 37 warships, Lieutenant Maria Vasquez reported, her voice steady despite the weight pressing down on all of them. "They're powering weapons. Planet Cracker is active." Reeves gave the slightest nod. "Let them strike first." Commander David Holt, tactical officer, shifted uneasily. "With respect, Captain, that barrage could flatten the moon." Reeves' voice was calm, unshakable. "History will remember who threw the first stone." Time slowed as the fleets hung suspended in the abyss. Then the void lit in fire. The Imperial fleet unleashed its fury. Plasma beams, incandescent white, streaked like suns torn from their orbits. Hypervelocity slugs, each the weight of a skyscraper, screamed across the gulf at impossible speed. Energy bolts flared, bright enough to outshine the stars. The Nemesis disappeared beneath a tidal wave of destruction. For long seconds, the human ship was swallowed by fire. When the light faded, the Nemesis remained untouched. Gasps erupted on the Vathra's deck. Officers scrambled across stations, shouting contradictory reports. Direct hits confirmed. Shields, non-existent, Admiral. It should be. It's impossible. The Nemesis shimmered faintly, as though reality itself had bent around it. No shield flares, no damage. Space itself had simply refused to let the weapon strike. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Vasquez stared, awe breaking through her discipline. Singularity veil integrity at 100%. Zero energy absorption. No kinetic impact. It's like, she swallowed hard. Like they never fired at all. Reeves did not smile. He simply inclined his head. Good. Now they've had their chance. The words fell like a blade. Return fire. The Nemesis moved, not with thrusters, not with the predictable arcs of known starships, but with a distortion of space so seamless it seemed to teleport. One moment it drifted, the next it was in firing position, the void around it bending like water around a stone. And then it struck. No beam. No missile. No visible weapon signature. The Terran ship released something deeper, an invisible ripple across spacetime itself. On the Vathra's deck, alarm shrieked as one of the dreadnoughts buckled inward, its vast hull folding like paper. In utter silence, the warship collapsed into a singularity the size of a pinhead before vanishing completely. "No, no, that's not possible," cried the sensor officer. "It's not a weapon, it's a tear." Another ripple. A cruiser fractured mid-flight, breaking into shards of molten debris before scattering into the void. A third ripple expanded outward. The targeted vessel did not explode. It did not burn. It simply ceased to exist. Panic erupted across the Imperial fleet. Ships broke formation, captains shouting over each other in desperation. Orders disintegrated into chaos as the humans dismantled warships as easily as a child crushing toys. On the Vathra, Admiral Zorath staggered backward, eyes wide with something he had not felt in centuries: fear. "What is this power?" he whispered. His claws shook as he gripped the command rail. "No species, no science, has ever." His words died as another cruiser vanished before his eyes. On the Nemesis, Reeves remained unmoving, his voice steady against the cries of his officers. "Target the dreadnoughts. Leave survivors enough to carry word back." The Nemesis moved again, space bending like silk. Another ripple, another Imperial giant erased. What once was 37 ships dwindled to 29 in minutes. Finally, Reeves spoke, voice low, ironclad, as though carved for history itself. "Transmit to Earth Command, first engagement successful." He turned toward his crew, his eyes blazing with a fire older than fear. The enemy now understands. Humanity is no longer prey in their galaxy. He looked back to the chaos unfolding on the displays, where the mighty Empire flailed against inevitability. We are the storm. The battle at Soul's Edge was over in less than an hour. An entire Imperial fleet had been reduced to wreckage and silence, its might torn apart by one human vessel that did not even bear a scratch. No survivors were left to fight back, only a scattering of escape pods deliberately spared to carry the story home. And what a story it was! The news spread like wildfire, faster than any courier drone or sanctioned broadcast could control. In the shadowy alleys of frontier colonies, smugglers whispered of the massacre in hushed tones, embellishing each retelling until the humans sounded more like gods than mortals. In the underlevels of the Imperial capital, where the poor huddled beneath the city spires, chants began, "The humans rise. The humans rise." But in the gilded halls of the High Senate, whispers turned to screams. The chamber stretched for half a kilometer, its dome etched with murals of conquest, victories of the Empire's 1,000-year reign. Now those same murals looked fragile, almost mocking, as panicked voices rose in waves. 37 ships, annihilated by one vessel, roared Senator Kreth, his frills flaring in outrage. "This is a fabrication, propaganda spun by rebels." A rival senator slammed a clawed fist onto his podium. "Fabrication? My nephew commanded the dreadnought Orolith. I saw the footage before the transmission was cut. That ship was unmade. The humans wield weapons that break the laws of physics themselves." Others joined in, shrill cries echoing beneath the chamber's dome. Fear stank in the air. High Emperor Valar IX sat upon his throne, silent, his expression a mask of carved stone. The Emperor was older than most living senators, and in his long life he had never heard the word impossible used in earnest. Until now. Finally, his voice boomed across the chamber. "Enough." The chamber silenced instantly. "Whether you believe the reports or not is irrelevant," Valar said, each word sharp as a blade. "What matters is that the humans defy us openly. And defiance must be crushed." He rose, the light catching on his golden war crown. "Summon the fleet." Not a token force, not a show of power. Summon them all. The humans have struck at the heart of our order. We will respond with a storm that will blot out their skies. Gasps rippled through the Senate. The largest mobilization in living memory had been commanded. Even worlds loyal for centuries trembled at the thought. But the Emperor had already decided. His pride would not permit hesitation. Far away, orbiting Earth, the Orbital Defense Council convened inside a chamber buried beneath layers of armored glass and magnetic shielding. Where the Empire's halls were adorned with gold, this room was stark, functional steel, dark screens filled with tactical projections, the weight of survival pressed into every corner. Captain Jonathan Reeves stood at attention before the Council's table, the events of the battle already circling the planet in rumor. Around him, the most powerful leaders of humanity gathered: generals, admirals, scientists, even the President herself. General Sarah Whitmore, chair of the Council, leaned forward, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. Captain Reeves, confirm for the record. You engaged an entire Imperial fleet with one ship. Yes, ma'am, Reeves said. His voice carried the same calm as it had in battle. 37 vessels. Neutralized within 42 minutes. Neutralized, Whitmore repeated, as though tasting the word. You didn't say destroyed. Reeves' eyes flicked to the floor for the briefest second before returning. We allowed survivors to escape. Someone had to tell them what happened. A murmur of unease rippled around the table. Dr. Leonard Harker, chief of research, adjusted his glasses nervously. And what exactly did they see, Captain? How much of our advancement was revealed? Reeves paused before answering. Enough. Harker's face paled. Whitmore's hand slammed onto the table. Then we've crossed the line. The Emperor won't stop now. He'll come with everything he has. Let him, Reeves said quietly. The Council fell silent. Reeves' voice wasn't arrogance. It was conviction. You've all seen the data, he continued. The Nemesis isn't a warship in the traditional sense. It doesn't fight battles, it ends them. The Singularity Veil makes us untouchable, and the Era projectors erase anything that stands in our way. But it isn't stable, Dr. Harker snapped. His voice cracked under the weight of suppressed fear. Every deployment risks tearing a hole in spacetime. We don't even understand the full implications. Push it too far, and you might not just end battles, you might end everything. Reeves turned toward him, and for a moment, his composure wavered. The shadows under his eyes deepened, lines carved by sleepless nights. I know, he admitted. The room fell even quieter. Reeves let the silence hang for a heartbeat before speaking again. We built this power in desperation. When the colonies were under siege, when we were alone, when no one else in the galaxy would come to our aid. We built it because extinction was the alternative. He drew a steadying breath. We did not seek empire. We did not seek conquest. We sought survival. And survival, ladies and gentlemen, is what we will have. Whitmore studied him, her sharp gaze softening slightly. She saw the weight he carried, the knowledge of commanding not just a ship, but humanity's most dangerous secret. Finally, she nodded. Very well. Then we prepare. Every ship, every defense platform. Earth will not fall. The Empire's response came swiftly. From the gas giant shipyards of Krythos to the drydock moons of Valix, fleets were pulled from their patrols, their crews ripped from garrison duty. Star cruisers that had launched in orbit as symbols of power now sped toward rally points. And at the heart of it all was the Emperor's jewel, the Imperial superflagship Dominion Eternal. A vessel so large it eclipsed cities, bristling with weapons powerful enough to vaporize oceans. Its hull glowed with energy conduits larger than Terran skyscrapers. Entire forests had been stripped from conquered worlds just to feed the production of its munitions. The Emperor himself would lead this armada, 300 warships in total, a force so vast it had no historical equal. And its destination was Sol. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Lieutenant Vasquez watched the intelligence feed scroll across her console, her stomach turning to stone with every new update. They're not bluffing, she whispered. 300 ships. The Dominion Eternal is with them. John, it's the largest fleet ever assembled. Reeves stood at the viewport, staring into the abyss. His reflection looked hollow in the glass, but his voice carried no weakness. They think numbers matter, he said softly. They think war is still about who brings the bigger stick. He turned toward her, his eyes burning with something primal. But they don't understand. Humanity doesn't bow. Not to kings. Not to empires. Not even to the void itself. Vasquez swallowed, forcing down the chill crawling up her spine. What if we're wrong, John? What if the nemesis isn't enough? Reeves' jaw tightened. His silence stretched, heavy as gravity. Then, finally, he spoke. Then we show them what it means to fight a species that has nothing left to lose. The words hung in the air, sharp as the edge of a blade. And in the distance, beyond the veil of stars, the largest armada in galactic history prepared to descend upon Earth. The storm was coming. And the nemesis waited. The armada came like a moving starfield, blotting out the heavens as it tore across the void toward Sol. 300 warships advanced in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with weapons bright enough to outshine suns. The Dominion Eternal, the Emperor's flagship, dwarfed them all, so large it appeared as a continent adrift in space, a black leviathan that carried the will of a 1,000-year empire upon its shoulders. To the Empire, it was not just war. It was ceremony. Retribution. A display of inevitability. No race had ever stood against such might and survived. And yet, waiting in the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit, there was only one ship. The USS Nemesis. She drifted silent and patient, her hull a void of midnight that seemed to drink the starlight around her. On her bridge, Captain Jonathan Reeves stood tall, his gaze locked on the tactical display as the Imperial formation approached. His crew sat in grim silence, every face pale in the glow of consoles, every heartbeat echoing with the knowledge that they were about to face the impossible. Lieutenant Vasquez broke the silence first. Contact in 5 minutes, Captain. Their formation is tight. There, her voice caught. They're coming in as if they're marching to an execution. Reeves' expression didn't flicker. Because they believe they are the executioners. Commander David Holt clenched his fists at his station. 300 ships, John. Even with the veil, even with the ear-rips, that's not a battle. That's suicide. Reeves didn't look away from the screen. Maybe. But history isn't written by those who surrender before the first shot. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but no one argued further. They had seen what the Nemesis could do. They had also seen the strain it placed on reality itself. And now, for the first time, they wondered if even that was enough. The comms erupted with static, then a voice filled the bridge, a voice deep, resonant, dripping with contempt. This is High Emperor Valor 9 of the Eternal Dominion, it boomed. Humans. Your defiance ends today. Kneel, and your species will be spared extinction. Resist, and not even the memory of Earth will remain. The voice carried the weight of centuries, the arrogance of a being who had never known defeat. Reeves stepped forward, calm as ice. He didn't activate the calm screen. He didn't need to see the Emperor's face. His voice was enough. This is Captain Jonathan Reeves of the United Terran Defense Fleet. He paused, letting the silence hang before continuing. We do not kneel. The line cut. The message was delivered. And the storm broke. The Imperial Armada unleashed its fury. Plasma lances, hypervelocity slugs, antimatter warheads, the void lit up brighter than a supernova as 300 ships focused their wrath on a single target. The Nemesis disappeared inside the storm. Alarms shrieked. The bridge shook. Even through the singularity veil, the sheer pressure of so much firepower pressed against the ship like the weight of a collapsing star. Veil integrity at 80%. Vasquez shouted over the chaos. 75. They're overwhelming the field. Hold steady, Reeves barked. His voice cut through the noise like steel. The Nemesis fired. Ripples of space-time tore outward, silent and unseen, but their effects were devastating. Entire cruisers collapsed inward, imploding into singular points before vanishing entirely. Dreadnoughts twisted in grotesque spirals as physics itself betrayed them. But for every ship that fell, another pressed in. The Armada did not falter. The Nemesis carved through their ranks, but it was like drowning in an ocean. No matter how many waves you broke, there were always more. Holt's voice cracked. "We can't keep this up, Captain. They'll burn us down with sheer numbers." Reeves' jaw tightened. His hand hovered over the console, over the failsafe. Project Eclipse. He had sworn never to use it. The scientists had warned him what it would mean. Controlled singularity manipulation was dangerous enough, but Eclipse was beyond control. It was a weapon that didn't just bend spacetime. It fractured it. Vasquez saw his hesitation and her voice trembled. "John, if you do this, there may not be anything left. Not them. Not us. Nothing." Reeves closed his eyes. He thought of Earth, of the fragile blue world hanging against the black. He thought of the millions of lives below, farmers, children, dreamers, people who still believed the stars held wonder. When he opened his eyes again, there was no doubt in them. Only resolve. Then better nothing than chains. His hand slammed down on the console. "Eclipse is live," Holt whispered, his face pale as death. The Nemesis screamed. Its core roared to life, not in sound, but in distortion, as the black hole engine expanded beyond all safe parameters. The very fabric of the universe trembled. Stars bent backward. Light stuttered. Reality shivered like a wounded animal. The Dominion Eternal fired its superweapon, a beam whiter than a city, bright enough to blind. It tore across the void, aimed straight at the Nemesis. But the Nemesis did not dodge. It met the beam head-on. The veil flared, and then collapsed, channeling the energy inward. The black hole engine drank the fury of a weapon built to split worlds, and in response, it released Eclipse. A shockwave exploded outward, silent, absolute, infinite. The Armada disintegrated. Ships didn't burn, didn't shatter. They unraveled. Their atoms stretched thin across dimensions, their existence smeared into nothingness. 300 warships ceased to be in less than a second, their power swallowed by the abyss. The Dominion Eternal lasted longer. For a moment, its shields blazed like suns, its weapons still firing, its engines screaming against the tide. The Emperor's voice echoed one last time, defiant even in death. "I am eternal." And then his flagship split in two, dragged screaming into the blackness before vanishing into silence. The void was still again. The Nemesis drifted alone among the ashes of a fleet that no longer existed. The bridge was silent but for the labored breaths of its crew. Veil integrity,